Hello everyone, welcome to the Sim Twins. I'm Brooke and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a speed build of a community lot that can be used for weddings. And before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you can get notified of whenever we post new content. We'll be posting new content weekly, so please check back for more information. So I wanted to do this build and I wanted to make it a renovated farm. And so what I'm doing here now is I'm building the structure that will become the barn area. And in the barn area is where you have the reception area and you have the dance floor in there. And I also wanted to create this really cool effect that looks like there you had big barn doors that were open. So I didn't close the room. So the lighting is a little bit different because the room's not closed. But you'll see later that on those walls that I built that jut out from each side of the barn that I add in these really cute windows from cats and dogs that kind of make it look like they are old barn doors. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about what color I wanted the roof to be. I wanted it to be a color that looked like it was an old barn, and I ended up going with a nice grayish wood that I think goes really nicely with the darker tones that I get for the siding. And I use cats and dogs for the siding, I'm pretty sure. And there you can see I'm adding those cats and dogs windows to those. And I make the height a little bit shorter because I think it looks kind of weird that the heights are really tall for that. And then I was trying to find a nice window to go up top on the roof part, and I think I end up going with that window from cats and dogs that's really nice and big, and I just add one of those in the middle of the roofs because it just looks really nice and it lets in a lot of more light into the space. And so here I am again trying to pick the color of the wall that I want, and I think I end up going with just actually a base game cabin in the, I think the swatch is called, no, end up going with a cats and dogs swatch. That's just this nice brown tone, and I really like it a lot. I think it looks like a very classic barn, but it's definitely been renovated. And in the area that I grew up in, there's a lot of barns and stuff in that area, and so a lot of people have been turning their barns and areas like that into wedding venues. It's very chic to have a wedding at an old barn outside. An outside wedding is very popular, and it's a really beautiful place to have it. And so you'll have like the barn area that's been renovated for the wedding reception area and the dancing, and you usually have the wedding ceremonial place where they get married outside. And so I definitely created that look and feel to me. And I delete this roof part so it's open up to the top, but I did this off camera, but I actually go back and add lattice work in later so it doesn't look so weird that things are just like hanging from the ceilings. I tried to use the nice base game mason jar ones, or maybe it was Parenthood mason jar lighting, but it just looked really weird without having a roof. So I went in and added some lattice work later, and I think it looked really nice with that lattice work. And then here I tried to decide what I was going to be using for the floor, because I know that in a lot of these barn areas, like the floor is not completely done. It's usually just like a dirt patch. And so I was trying to find something that would go well with that. And they actually do have outdoor swatches. I don't think not in this one, but in the miscellaneous swatches, there is one that's on bottom of the basement. And so I use that because I think that's really true to life to when you go to these areas. They do have like, basically they've just raked over the area where the barn was and just like patted down the soil so that the soil is nice and hardened on the ground. And you know, people just like walk on this and they dance on this. But I'm adding here now this tiling so you can see where I'm making the outlines of where the dance floor is going to go, because I wanted the dance floor is usually in the center of the area. So I added the dance floor in the middle. And as you can see, I was having some issue with the roofing, with the making all of those little triangles and everything. So here I am just trying to go back in and clean it up, because I did put this building on a diagonal, I did have to kind of do the tiling a special way because it was on that diagonal. I couldn't just go straight through because I wanted it to be a square in the middle of the room. I don't think it's completely centered, but I think it works in the end. And then I spent a lot of time in here decorating the inside of this area. I wanted to find nice tables that could go in here because this was the reception area where people eat and sit down for their dinner. And I wanted to find something that had like the nice tablecloths, but I wasn't convinced that these tables, the holiday tablecloths are nice, but they only have those holiday swatches, and I was not a fan of that. And then here I am putting in this sweetheart table, because that's where the bride and groom sit. And yeah, I wasn't convinced that these were the right tables, but I did want the tables to be round because round tables are the best to use in situations like this. But I felt like these were too small and also a little cocktail dinnerish kind of. And I was thinking in this situation it would more be like you're sitting down to an actual meal rather than just having a cocktail hour. So I removed these and put in some bigger tables, and I think I can't remember what tables I went with, but here I am just looking at like all of the generic items. I have actually never made anything on a generic lot type before, so I've never really played around with what comes in this generic items area. So I was just like playing around, and I searched for so long looking at this stuff because I had the debug items, which you can do if you go into cheats, and then cheats is just Control-Shift-C, and then you use bb.show hidden objects, and then you can get all of these debug items, and so you can use a lot of stuff that are usually not available. I really liked this Shadow of the Moon table that came with the free update to celebrate the Chinese New Year from last year, but in the end, I didn't think that the style went really well with what I wanted to use for this reception. And since this is like an area where people are going to be having their weddings, I didn't add in like a lot of personal details because I know that when you like come in and have your wedding, you're definitely going to be using all the styles that the bride wants. And so all of these areas are going to be very different for each bride depending on what colors they pick and all that stuff. So I thought that, having just these like wooden tables would be fine because in real life, the bride and her team would like go in and choose whatever colors they want for the tablecloths and everything like that. So in the end, I just decided to go very rustic and add in these really cute sunflowers on the table. And later off camera, I also add in some lanterns on the table. I size some lanterns down and add them because I think it's really cute. And I just really like the sunflowers. It's like a very rustic vibe that I gave this. So even though, yes, the brides do get to choose when they come to a venue, like what they want the venue to look like, I really did want to make this venue be very rustic in style. And so because it is like a converted barn into this area, I wanted to keep that rustic vibe that would come originally with a barn. And so yeah, I was just like trying to make sure that all of the tables were centered, and I wanted to pick a nice chair that would look like it had the slipcover on it, because a lot of times when you go to these events, the tables have tablecloths on them, and the chairs also have cloths on them to just like really make the place look very elegant. I also realized that after placing all these tables around the dance floor that there wasn't a lot of room. So in the end, I do end up expanding the footprint of the barn itself, so you have more room and more ability to not feel like your guests are cramped sitting literally inside the wall. Here, as you can see, that chair just literally is cropping into the wall. So here I am trying to figure out how I can make this place bigger, but I was like going off the lot. So I had to move the placement of it, and then moving the placement of the barn also moved the placement of those fake walls that I did, because they didn't actually move with it. So I had to end up going and redoing those, and it was just a whole ordeal trying to figure out. So here I am just like trying to go back and fix my mistakes. So but then I'm like, no, I still need that extra space. So I ended up expanding it, and I delete those walls and just build the walls anew again and add in the windows again. So yeah, that's what I have to end up doing. And here you can see I'm just deleting those so that they can fit in again. And I just take these walls, and actually what I do is I move those walls and I copy them and I bring them to the front, because it's a lot faster than having to rebuild them, is just to take the wall and copy it and then just move it into place. And so as you can see, this is really starting to take shape into what it originally looks like. And I realized that I was like, oh, those look really small. But later I figure out that it's not the wall height that needs to change, it's the fact that it needs to have a little bit of trim on it. So I add trim later. But now, yeah, I'm just adding in the last of the chairs. And so it looks really nice and elegant on the inside, I think. And later off camera, I do add more lighting. Like here, you can see I'm adding these mason jar lights from Parenthood. But again, like I said, since I deleted the wall, I deleted the roof, it looks kind of weird because like it looks like they're just suspended from nothing, which in the real world, like of course your lighting is going to be suspended from the roof. But these are just not long enough to reach all the way up to the top of the roofing, and I tried to figure out how to use the longer ones from the roofing, but it still just like looked like they were too high up and it didn't work. So in the end, that's why I added in that extra fencing and lattice work up top, so it just looks a lot cleaner and a lot nicer. And here I am, I almost forgot to like change the roof around so that it would fit, and then I also had to change the placement of those windows so they would be centered again. But yeah, and then the next thing I do is I am trying to find something to go on the outside to make it look a lot nicer. And I thought that there'd be a nice dirt path into the front entrance of the barn. And then there'd also be like some cute little decorations on the outside. So here I am trying to find like a sign. I wanted there to be like a cute little sign. And this sign came with cats and dogs. And I thought that this would be a really cute sign that you could have in the front. And I add this placeholder of a picture later. I think the picture is like for your graduation or whatever, but in my mind, I thought, you like take a picture of the couple and then you put picture of the couple up with their names on this nice sign out front so people know whose wedding they're going to. But yeah, I was just like looking through all of the different things that you could use and add. And so here I am just like going through trying to find what sign would work. There's a lot of nice signs in the Cats and Dogs pack, but of course they don't really match with like a wedding. And I tried to get this thing to match, but it just was clipping too much and it didn't really fit the vibe that I wanted to go with. So you can just see me here like trying to figure out like maybe I should go with these nice flowers or something like that. And I'm like, no, they don't work either. I was like, I really want something that looked very personal to the bride's family, which is why with the bride and the groom. And so that's why I ended up going with like that empty picture, and you'll see me do that later. But so yeah, just as we like are going through trying to find this, I'll just tell you a bit more about this challenge. So this challenge is from the Simmer group chat, and the Simmer group chat is something that I am a part of on Twitter. And they have a Discord server. And so this is the newest challenge. It's to build a wedding venue and then to also build a bride and groom to, I guess, like have them be at the wedding. And as you can see here, I'm placing a little pond. I thought the pond would be like super cute out front. Because this is like an old farm. So I assumed that there would be like a little water feature. And I think the water feature is really nice. And I also add in a fountain later, and I actually realized when I was player testing this area that the Sims can actually go fishing there. So I guess if someone gets bored at your wedding, they can go and fish at this little farm, at this little pond. But yeah, so this is the Simmer group chat challenge for this part of February. I think this is like the first challenge in February that they're doing. They might be doing others, but I really like this challenge. Like when I heard this challenge was going on, like I automatically thought, yes, I'm making this barn, because like going to these kinds of weddings like that have been held at farms that have been turned into wedding venues has just been a big part of my life. just because of the area I grew up in. So I'm just like, yes, I want to create something that reminds me of all of those locations that I've been to before. And here I am just like trying to, something to put up on that sign. And yeah, this is when I go with that photo, frame. And again, this is something for your graduation photo. So as you can see, the frame is gone because, I'm not in gold, in live mode. But if you go into live mode, you can just click on it and it should give you the option to add a frame. And then I was trying to find something else to add there because I thought that was a little plain, but in the end I add this postcard. But later off camera I delete the postcard because I think it just looks weird that there's just like this one random postcard by it. I thought that it would be like cute because it'd be like, oh, like the bride and groom like really like to travel, and so they like have postcards from all over the world. But I just ended up scrapping that idea. And so, if you download this gallery off the gallery, which you can, our gallery ID is the Sim Twins 14. You can definitely add whatever kind of personalized things you want to do. Definitely, if you are playing this and you have your Sims family, I would take a picture of the couple and add it to that frame, so it just looks really nice when your guests come over and they see a picture of the bride and groom. And here I am just adding a little more detailing to the roofs by adding these eaves. And I just go through and add these brown eaves all the way down the roofing, so it just gives that nice little bit of detail on the roofing. And here I am trying to find more like stuff, and I was like, oh wait, here's this gate from Seasons. But I was like, nah, I mean, yeah, that gate looks really barn, but I still like the windows that I went with in the end. Oh, and then I add some flowers to this little area with the trellis because I think it just looks really cute with all of it. But make sure that if you do add this lot to your game, that you have bb.move objects on, because there's a lot of objects here that I added with move objects on. And so if you don't have move objects on, it kind of messes up placement and everything. So yeah, and so here I am just adding those eaves again. And I learned this trick, I think it was from Delivery, but if you have like one of these things and you want to add them multiple times without having to like refine them in the catalog, just when you when you use the little dropper, just hold down shift and then you can place multiple ones, and not have to go to the catalog and find it again. And that was just a really great tip that I learned from Deligracy's videos. It's so helpful to know that, especially like with some of these things where they don't give you like multiple ones after you placed on one for some reason. I don't understand why some of them are like that, but not all of them are like that. Yeah, but that's just a really good tip for when you're building and you want to add in like features like that. And I also just realized that that window is the wrong color on the so as you can see, this back window, I made it darker, in the frame darker, so it'll match the darkness of the other wood tones. And I forgot to do that on the front window, but I do end up changing that again off camera. I changed that, so when you download it off the gallery, it will be the same color as that back window, so it'll match and look more cohesive. And also I made sure that to make these eaves more cohesive, and also that they are in line with each other, and that they expand all the way down. I also add these nice little planter boxes from Discovery University. I just think they're super cute and they work with everything. And so here now I am moving over to the wedding venue area where you actually get married, where you have the wedding trellis and everything. So I was trying to figure out how to do the aisle, because the aisle is really important. I wanted to do it with like flower petals, but I couldn't find any like flower petals just by themselves on the ground. So I ended up with just going with these floral runners and just doubling up on them and adding them. And I think it looks really nice. It's a nice pink, but if your colors for your wedding are not pink, you can totally like change the colors of these runners. Like you don't have to stick to these colors, obviously. But here I am. I just place them down, and I try and make them overlap and everything and look really nice as the runners for the wedding. And here I am just like figuring out what arch I want to use, and I go with the Daddy's Girl arch. And I originally was looking at that blue color, but I think I end up going with the traditional white and red one because I think it looks a lot better. And then I realized that like my runners are not exactly centered with it, and I wanted it to be centered because I'm very like particular. So I end up just like adding 6 carpets all in total, and just like doubling up on them, and adding the one in the middle, so they do overlap. But I think it looks a lot nicer and more even and centered to the arch. And then I was trying to find nice patio benches to sit, but I didn't really like those. I thought they were a little too big, so I ended up going with I think it was a love seat. Yeah, a love seat. And so the love seat, you can, I think, fit 2 Sims on it at a time, which obviously it's a love seat. So yeah, that makes sense. But I go in this white color, and I think it's really pretty. And I actually end up, as you can see later, I end up adding a little bit of decoration down the aisle as well, because a lot of times at weddings you do have the aisle nicely decorated, and I wanted to add in plants, something to give it like greenery, but I also wanted to add in lights. So I also add in a light feature in between them, and I wanted to keep with the sunflowers, but I ended up I think I end up maybe going with a different flower. But again, if you like look at this and you're like, oh, I don't really want to use that flower, that's fine. And here I am just trying to figure out a pedestal that would work. The Roman pedestal is the one I end up choosing because I think it's the one that looks the most classy for a wedding. And then I add the flowers on top of that. But also I was just like playing around with the little gnome, because I know now that you can stack those gnomes, like as if we ever asked for that. But it was something that came in one of the updates, that you can stack the gnomes. And here I am just like adding in these sunflowers again, so you have consistency with the reception area as well as the aisle. And again, I'm going in looking for lighting, and it takes me forever to find like specific things, because I have a very specific look in my head about how I want things to look, and sometimes it's really hard for me to find the exact item that I need in order to make my vision come true. But I found it, and I scaled it down, and I think it looks really good because they look like they expand. Because they're in this pedestal, you can't see the brown base, and so they look like they expand all the way across. Now I'm just trying to find like the right color for them. I originally thought I was going to go with that gold, but then I just went with the all white ones because I thought, it's a wedding, it's very classy to go all white. But yeah, just like making them smaller by using the bracket keys to size them down, it just like fits so perfectly between those pedestals. And I was like, oh, that is the look I wanted. It's so pretty. And if you're having this wedding at nighttime, you turn those on and it just lights up the aisle, and it's just so beautiful. And then I also wanted to add in this really cute table up at the front where the ceremony happens, because I know that a lot of people will do unity candles as part of their ceremony. It's where the bride and the groom, they take candles and they light them together to signify their union. And so I did that with here, just adding in that little table at the end, and you can have those candles there. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.